Hey everybody, it's me. Wow, it's been a minute. Welcome to the Book Nook. We're in my reading nook, and today we are going to talk about De-Evolution, or Devolution? Devolution. It is the first-hand account of the Rainier Sasquatch Massacre. You can just call me Steve, because I got my handy-dandy notebook, and I want to talk to you guys about this book that I listened to, actually. So this one, I listened to an audiobook. I feel like I like listening to Max Brooks stories in audiobook format because they tend to be full cast, and I am a big fan of full cast narrations. If you listen to World War Z, then you know that that was also a full cast narration, and it was fantastic. It was so good. My neighbor's having a conversation with somebody. I don't know if the microphone's going to pick it up. Who cares? I have to have the window open because it gets really hot up here otherwise. It is fall, and I like it. I do like that it's like a fall temperature. I got this fall flavored slush from Sonic. It's cranberry. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're not here to talk about fall. We're here to talk about Sasquatch and how scared I am of Sasquatch. So the book follows a group of people who are living in sort of a green, futuristic community. I say futuristic because I can't imagine normal people living in such a green way because, you know, who loves the planet? Nobody. So they're living in this very, like, self-sufficient green community. They're all very rich, obviously. They don't really have a clue, I think is a really good way to put it, like, at all, like, about anything. Because these people are living in this very isolated community outside of Mount Rainier, which is in Washington, and I had to look that up. And so they're very isolated from the whole world, and they want that because they want nature. They want to be in nature. They want to feel part of nature because they view nature as like the purest thing, the best thing. And I'm not saying that nature isn't perhaps the purest thing. Sure, it is, and we're going to talk about that in a second, because just because it's pure doesn't mean it's not dangerous. Pure cyanide is dangerous. Do we make this cyanide man-made? I don't know, honestly. I'll look that up later. So this community is living very isolated, so they're very rich. They're not taking care of themselves. The idea is that, you know, they have all their food droned in or dropped off, that they have a handyman available 24/7. So they don't need to take care of any of these things. They're very, a lot of them are extremely educated or are of that sort of academic nature, tech people, or people who have written academic papers, sorry. And then there's an artist as well who works in glass. And so they're all living there, and then Mount Rainier explodes. I'm not going to say that it's like a volcanic explosion, but it's like hot boiling mud, which I learned is called a lahar. And so lahars are this like boiling mud that can come down and just destroys everything and hardens into essentially concrete. So this happens pretty early in the book. They're far enough away where they're not affected by this. So there is ash. The sky is probably gray. It's gray on the East Coast right now anyway. They're not in danger from a lahar. They're far enough away that they are not in the blast radius. And they talk about this in the book a little bit too. They're also far enough away where they're not a priority to get rescued. So that's rough. That's a rough deal. And throughout the chapters, so the book is a first-hand account, and it is told by Max Brooks. So it is Max Brooks interviewing a park ranger, the brother of one of the people who live there, and also reading or including the journal of one of the people who lived there. It was a woman who lived there. Her name was Katie. So each chapter you get in the beginning will be a quote having to do with Sasquatch, and there's some really interesting quotes in there which we're going to talk about. And then there is either talking to Katie's brother, who is voiced by Nathan Fillion, or talking to a park ranger who is dealing with the cleanup and the rescue efforts for this disaster. And the thing with Max Brooks stories is they all it feels real. It feels like this is really, really happening. And so a lot of it, I had to be like, is this a real book? He mentions like the Sasquatch Companion. I had to Google it to be like, is this a real book? It's not, which is a bummer. Or I don't know why I Googled has Mount Rainier exploded, because I feel like if it had in recent times, I would remember that, but maybe I wouldn't. If it happened in the 90s or the 80s, I was a kid. Maybe I wouldn't remember. So, but it has so this is one of those things where I'm researching this book and I realized that it hasn't happened in a while, like a couple hundred years, maybe 100 years, but it could happen at any time. And all of those houses there's so many people living where it could happen, that this is what would happen. That they would just be wiped out. They would be taken out entirely if there's Lahar, which is insane to me. It's crazy. People live there. I'm so sorry. I hope there's never a Lahar. It's 2020. I'm sorry. So it's told very factually. He does a lot of research, which is great. And then some of the stuff in there is real. So I mentioned that before each chapter there's a quote, and so there's these ongoing quotes from Teddy Roosevelt's book, which is called, let me see if I wrote it down. I didn't write it down. It's called Into the Wilderness, I believe. If it wasn't called Into the Wilderness, it'll say down here what it was actually called. But, so this is a real account from Roosevelt, where Roosevelt is, in a way, going to kill every big game creature in America. Great, that's just what America needed. Whatever. So he's going around, he's going into the wilderness, and he interviews this guy who is like this old wilderness man, and he's like, listen, this area, I went up there when I was a young guy, and me and my buddy went up there, and we were trapping beavers, and we'd heard that somebody was killed up there, but we don't know nothing about that. So we go up there, we're gonna kill some beavers, me and this guy. This is this old wilderness man telling this story to Teddy Roosevelt. And he says, we go up there, we leave our horses at the base of the mountain, we walk up, we set our trap, we camp out. The next day, we wake up and our camp is trashed. It's just destroyed. We're like, what the hell? So we go, we check our traps, there's nothing. We come back, we go to bed. Next day, camp is trashed again, and we hear these noises outside. And they're like, you know what? This is probably a bear. But at the night, there's this smell that they smell. And they describe this in the book as well. They describe it as being like a rotten garbage smell, which somebody also described Bigfoot as smelling like, this is a BuzzFeed Unsolved, described Bigfoot as smelling like smegma, which is the sebaceous, it's like folds of skin, oil and stuff like. This is apparently what Bigfoot smells like. I don't know. I was talking to a friend about this, and she said, why does Bigfoot smell so bad? Do bears smell bad? Maybe they do. I've genuinely never been close enough to a bear to smell it, so I cannot tell you what bears smell like. I don't know. I have no idea. So anyway, this trapper is like, they go these couple nights, they keep getting trashed by a bear, and they're finally like, we gotta peace, we gotta go, we gotta leave. This bear is coming for us, coming for our weaves. We gotta leave. He's like, I'm gonna go. The old man is telling the story, and he says, when he was a young man, he says to his friend, I'm gonna go pick up all the traps. He leaves his friend to pack up camp. So his friend packs up camp, he comes back, and his friend is dead. His friend is dead. His head was torn off, and it looked like somebody had partied around his dead body. Hadn't eaten him, just like had a party around his body. And the old trapper referred to it as a goblin. So this story has existed for 100 and some odd years, you know what I mean? It's a thing that Teddy Roosevelt, the real Teddy Roosevelt, wrote in his real book. Was he talking about Sasquatch? Probably. Before we continue, I need you all to know that I'm afraid of Bigfoot. I've said it, and I'll say it again. I'm afraid of Bigfoot. Maybe 10 years ago, I watched Hunting for Bigfoot on Animal Planet. Oh, it had to have been more than 10 years ago. It was a long time ago. And I'm watching it alone in my basement, and I'm watching it, and I'm watching it, and I'm realizing I'm getting more and more scared the more they talk about Bigfoot. And this is like a peaceful, friendly, cook your eggs Bigfoot. So I'm afraid of Bigfoot. I don't like it. And I think there's some really interesting explanations for what Bigfoot is. And they do kind of talk about this in this book. So we go back. We're back with this group of people. Mount Rainier has exploded. oh no. And all the animals are leaving the area. Like they're migrating. They're moving away from the disaster zone and moving through their area. And they're all like, oh, look at this beautiful, there's deers and we can feed them. And it's so nice. And nature's pure and beautiful. And then like a cougar shows up and they're like, you can't hurt this cougar. This cougar is just trying to live its life. And it is. The cougar also wants to eat your child. Is it okay for the cougar to eat your child because the cougar's just doing what the cougar wants to do? Or do you, the artist, the older woman, her name is Mostar, she's Ukrainian? I don't know for sure. She's definitely Eastern European, has lived through some shit. She throws a spear at the cougar. It hurts the cougar runs away. And they're all mad at her about it because she hurt the cougar. Did you want the cougar to eat your child? So there's a lot of that's going on in this book. Even once the Bigfoots appear, the Sasquatches appear, Katie is the first one to see them, and she slowly convinces everyone else that the Sasquatch is there. It took them a really long time to believe that the Sasquatches wanted to hurt them. And that the Sasquatches weren't peaceful, and that they weren't essentially animals who were hungry and looking for food. And they weren't primates, which are known to hurt each other. I mean, chimps hurt each other. Other apes hurt each other. Apes hurt each other. But like, people didn't want to believe it. And so part of that felt to me, this community is fighting amongst themselves about whether or not they should protect themselves against the Bigfoot or whether the Bigfoot is safe. And a lot of that, it felt a little bit like a jab at animal activists to me. And maybe it's because I work in animal welfare, and maybe it's because I am an animal activist, that it did feel like they were poking fun at animal activists just a little bit. And there are some that are probably would sacrifice their child to a cougar. I don't know. Maybe not. So I'm going to talk about the last third of the book. And from here on out, spoilers for the end of the book. So if you're interested in reading this book, you don't want to know how it ends, stop. Go read the book. Come back and we'll talk about it. But otherwise, spoilers. This book gets gory as heck fast. So the Bigfoots show up and Katie is talking about each of them, and each of them have a distinctive like personality, which I think is good, because I mean, chimps have distinctive personalities, and gorillas have distinctive personalities, and if Bigfoot is real, it is somewhere in that great ape primate category. And they talk about this in the book, where maybe these Bigfoot, Sasquatches, Yeti, whatever they're called, existed with Neanderthals, and then Homo sapiens sapiens showed up, and they were like, we gotta go. Homo sapiens sapiens killing everything. And we did. We killed everything. We gotta leave. We gotta peace out. So they went and hid. And they survived. They wouldn't be the only species that hid from us and survived. So, okay. So they show up. They're hungry. They've been displaced from their home. And they find, you know, all the deers and the birds and the raccoons are gone. But there's this group of small mammals, other primates, that aren't gone and are definitely food. And so they start to kill them. The first one, he goes out and he's like, I gotta leave, I gotta go. He knows that there's Sasquatches out there, but he's like, I gotta go. I gotta leave. We gotta figure out how to get out of here. So he leaves, they kill him. Just like right away. Like, you like 2 pages later, he's dead. And they're throwing his head at you. And it sort of really quickly evolves from there. So the first half of the book is really like Katie talking about how she has anxiety and how she wants to move here and how her husband's sort of a deadbeat and how, you know, she's so in love with the man who created the community and how like magnetic he is. And then this disaster happens and the man who created the community just falls apart. Because I think he knows how screwed they are. Just how screwed they are. There's no tools. There's no emergency food. There's no power. There's no cell power. There's nothing. Nobody's coming. They're all going to die. And I think he knows that. And I think that he knows whoever survives is going to tell the world about how he doomed them. And he's a public figure. And I think that that's going to be rough for him. So he falls apart really fast. And his wife falls apart really fast. The guy's head gets thrown at them. It turns into this really like gory, crazy thing really fast. So that happens. So everybody gets killed in this book. I'm going to tell you right now, don't get attached. Well, No, don't get attached to anybody. Because from the very beginning of the book, he's telling you this story because there's no survivors. He's reading you this journal because there's no survivors. The only information we have about this account is from this journal because there's nobody left. So you kind of know from the beginning that everybody's gone. Like everybody's dead or something. So these Bigfoots keep making these like concentrated attacks on them, and they start to fight back, and in the end there's this big scene, they're fighting back, and then you don't know who wins in reality, because this whole thing is told as a journal. This is all Katie's journal, and she never journals about what happened after the big fight. You find out that some more people died, and then that's it. That's all there is. So then it comes on to you as the reader to decide what happened to Katie. And they give you some ideas. They suggest, you know, they found rescuers found the camp a month later. So nobody was there, but there was plenty of food there. And she could have survived. So maybe it could have been that some of the surviving Sasquatches made a concentrated attack and killed them, the remaining survivors, which was 2 people. It could be that her and the other remaining person left and tried to make their way off the mountain and got caught in the snow or the ash or fell somewhere and died. Or it could be that they are going after the rest of the Sasquatches, that they're going after them to kill them. So you have to decide. I like to think that Katie grew a lot as a human being and decided to go fight the Sasquatches. I need someone to go fight Sasquatch for me because I cannot handle Sasquatch being around. No thank you. Overall, this book was great. I liked it a lot. I liked the audiobook a lot. I cannot speak for the prose book because I didn't read it. I would suggest getting Max Brook joint in audiobook because it's great. Usually full cast. If you get World War Z, make sure you get the entire thing, the extended. It's about 12 hours versus the 5-hour abridged. The extended is much, much better and has all of the stories from the book, not just some of them. But for this one, I think that the message that we take away from Devolution is that nature is rough and nature isn't nice. It isn't evil. It isn't anything. It's not nice, it's not mean, it's not anything. It is about survival. And that includes, if you're out there, your own survival. So we should treat nature with respect that it deserves because it can mess our shit up real fast. And don't go looking for Sasquatch if you don't want to find Sasquatch and you don't want to get eaten by Sasquatch. That's all I have to say about Sasquatch. So it was awesome talking about books to you guys. I have a big stack of books I'm reading right now, and we're going to talk about some more. And I'm excited for November because we're reading a series from my youth that is bad. Well, all of October we're reading some stuff from my youth, so I'm really excited about that. Stay tuned next because I'm going to chill your RL spine. Hint. And until later, I love you all. Bye.